Ciao e bentornati. Welcome back to Pillole D'Italiano. In today's episode, episode number 91, I'm finally going to answer a question that I received a few weeks ago, and this question is about the different types of Italian homes that exist. First of all, thanks so much for your patience. Yep, you know who you are. I always read all of your comments and questions. I try to respond as quickly as possible to all of them. And if they deserve a separate episode, like in this case, it might take me a couple of weeks to get to it because I have a long list of topics that have been requested. All this to say, thanks so much for leaving your messages and for being such an active community and oftentimes inspiring new episodes. I really appreciate you. And feel free to request a specific episode at any time. The only thing you have to do, if you don't know it already, is to leave a comment in the comment section below any video. I will get a notification and I will make sure to answer. Let's jump into today's episode, shall we? So as I said, this is all about the different types of homes that exist in Italy. You might be thinking of buying a property in Italy or renting one, or you're just might be curious about something that you saw in Italy and you couldn't really put a name to it. You will notice how a couple of the types of properties that I will mention actually do not really exist or are not really so common outside of Italy. And when it comes to those properties, I will try and tell you and express as best as I can what those are and why they were born, why they exist on the Italian territory. All right, let's start by mentioning the fully independent detached types of home. We have the first one you're already probably familiar with, una villa and una villetta. So villa, we use the same word in English, a villa, a mansion. Villetta is just a smaller version. So as you can imagine, to buy una villetta in Italy is going to be way cheaper than buying a villa. A villetta will also come with, less land around. It's usually just a backyard, a front yard, not much, is not a mansion. It's more affordable for, even working families. If you save some money, you can definitely afford una villetta. And sometimes what happens is that builders will build a little villetta and divide it in two parts so that two families can actually live there. And that will be una villetta bifamiliare. Bifamiliare, right? Bi is the same Latin root as bi, so two, for two families. Let's move on and talk about two different solutions of still independent and detached homes that you could find more in rural areas, cascina and casale. Una cascina, cascina is feminine, and that is an independent home, almost like a farmhouse. So it used to be used for housing cattle, cows, horses, sheep. It doesn't have a plural in English, I caught myself. So all of these farm animals, and so there used to be what could be defined as a stable or a barn. And in modern cascine, you will find that area converted. So that right now, if you go and buy a cascina that has been renovated, you will not necessarily have a barn to deal with anymore. Or you might buy an old cascina and have to renovate it yourself, and then you could do with the barn whatever you want. And now coming to the second option that I gave you for the rural setting, casale, un casale, it's a masculine word. That's more of a country house. So there were no animals associated to this living situation. It's just a home, independent home in the countryside, un casale. Now let's move on and talk about the semi-detached type of homes. You remember the villetta from before? Well, there is also the option of buying a villetta a schiera. Villetta a schiera. So it's a little villa, a villetta, in a row of homes attached to others, side by side. It looks like a townhouse. So in Italy, your townhouse will be villetta a schiera. Now, if your home develops around an internal courtyard, that will be casa di corte. Casa di corte. Corte meaning courtyard. So you have the structure with an internal courtyard. Nowadays can be used to park your cars. And there are all different units homes, apartments all around. And so una casa di corte could just develop on one level, have 2 or 3 levels. It really depends. Every situation is different. I actually used to live, well, I lived there only for 2 years when I was in middle school in a casa di corte, and I remember that every single one of our neighbors had a different situation. So some people only had windows, like us actually, only windows on one side because the back of our unit was backing against a different building, a different corte. Some other people were facing the street, and so they had windows on the inside towards the courtyard and on the outside towards the street, but they only had the top floor, for example, and someone else only had the bottom. Well, in my case, we had both floors. So the way that these case di corte are actually divided into independent units is, I don't know, it's like very, very varied. I cannot really nail it down in one video. I just noticed how the microphone was not in the right place. Now, hopefully the audio for the rest of the video, the first part of the video, was decent and you could hear me. I guess I will figure it out in post-production. If not, I will have to do some voiceover of myself. That's gonna be fun. Let's see. Anyway, we were talking about case di corte and how they're all different from one another. And so if you have a chance, if you are in Italy and you see an open house and it's one of those settings with an internal courtyard, that corte, just go sneak in, have a look. I mean, don't sneak in people's homes, just if they're having an open house and they're actually showing it because they're selling it. Just go and have a look. Another type of living situation that is super fascinating, you will find it a lot in big cities, like Milan has a lot of it, is that casa di ringhiera. Casa di ringhiera. Now, ringhiera is one of those words that we have in Italian to translate handrail. You know, when you're walking on a balcony, there is a handrail. That's the ringhiera. And so casa di ringhiera is basically a unit, an apartment that has a catwalk with a handrail in front of the entrance, and that catwalk, it looks like a balcony, right, with a handrail, is in common, is shared by all the units that are on that level. And so what happens is that if you want to, if you live in one of those case di ringhiera and you want to reach your apartment and is the very last one on that row, you have to walk past by all the entrance doors for all the other units. And usually the entry door and the kitchen window will be facing that ringhiera, the catwalk, that balcony. And the apartments inside are not really big. We're talking about a type of building. These case di ringhiera, why are those so popular, or used to be so popular in big cities like Milan? Actually, side note, I Googled it just to see how many of those are still in the city, you can still find around. Apparently, 11% of all homes in Milan is a casa di ringhiera, which is crazy, right? It's a huge number. And so these type of living situations are so popular, or used to be so popular, because they were just there for all the workers that moved from the countryside around the turn of the century, the beginning of the 19th century. No, wait a second. It's the beginning of the 20th century. So we're talking about 1900s, right? In the last century or so, those type of homes became super popular because a lot of people, after the Industrial Revolution, they were leaving the countryside, moving into the city to work and finding their job there. Whole families were just packed in those small apartments in case di ringhiera, where, as I said, there was one area that was the kitchen, dining, and living situation, and usually only like one back room with a window facing the other side. And that was the sleeping area, and oftentimes the whole family was sleeping there. So I did not mention a bathroom, didn't I? Because originally bathrooms were shared. So at the very end of this catwalk, there was a bathroom. We're just talking about toilets and maybe a sink. Don't think about fancy, bathtubs and showers, but so people used to share that one. Every single unit at the same floor used to share the same bathroom. Nowadays, if you want to invest in a property in Italy and you buy a casa di ringhiera, so you buy one of those apartments, are fixed, they have internal plumbing, they have been modernized, so don't you worry, you will find a bathroom inside in the unit. But the context is still very particular, because it's definitely not the type of place where you want to go if you need some privacy. It's very communal. If you are coming and going from your apartment, everyone else will know because, well, you're walking in front of their homes. It's that type of place where people probably used to leave their, doors open and just chit chat with neighbors. So it's an interesting experience. And as I said, if you find an open house, as you're touring Italy, if you're in Milan or another Turin as well, or another major city in Italy, you can go and have a look, and it's a cultural experience in a sense. Well, you might have noticed how we left the villa and villetta and all the independent living situations behind us, and now we're talking more and more about apartments. So in Italian, we only have one word for apartment or condo, because a lot of Americans at least refer to their apartments as condos. We call them just appartamento or appartamenti if you want to use the plural. Now, there are different types of apartments depending on how big they are, how many rooms they have. So what you guys will call studio is not uno studio, is usually referred to as monolocale, monolocale. So there is the Latin root here of mono, which is one. It's one room, monolocale. This is what we're basically saying. If you have a one-bedroom apartment, this might be a bit confusing for people who are thinking in terms of only counting the bedrooms, right? Because you guys will say, I live in a one-bedroom apartment. It's not that you only have one room. You have the one bedroom and then you have the kitchen living room. Well, that for us is bilocale, bilocale. Because the way it works is that we're counting the bedrooms and we're counting the living area, the daytime area. We don't count bathrooms. So if I'm talking about a trilocale, now you know for sure that this apartment has 2 bedrooms, right? You're counting 2, and the third room that makes it a trilocale, as I said, is the living area. But how many bathrooms are in that trilocale? You are not 100% sure just by reading trilocale. You will need additional information. Trilocale con 2 bagni, maybe, right? With 2 bathrooms, or trilocale con un bagno. And if you're looking for a place with 3 bedrooms, then you will have to consider a quadrilocale, quadrilocale. Quattro means 4, quadrilocale, you feel it, you hear it, it's kind of similar, same root. So quadrilocale is an apartment with 4 rooms, 4 main rooms, 3 of them are bedrooms. Oh, and let me give you one last type of living accommodation. This is for all the dreamers, is the attico, attico. That is a type of apartment that you will find in high-rise buildings at the top floor. So basically it's what you guys will call a penthouse. So if you want to dream, go and have a look at atticos and open houses like that when you're in Italy. Now, before you go, answer this question in the comment section below. In che tipo di casa vivete? In che tipo di casa vivete? I live in a 2-bedroom, so I would say vivo in un trilocale. Vivo in un trilocale. E voi? Let me know, leave your answer in the comment section below. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel if you're new to it. And I will see you in a week. Ciao, presto!